doing, buddy?
Doing great, man. How about yourself?
I'm excited talking about the fight news going on in the MMA and UFC world, man. So I think there's going to be a couple of cool things to talk about today. So which things are we going to talk about?
Well, the big news about Anderson Silva and Jake Paul fight. What do you think about that? What do you think about the whole thing going on about that? It's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, for people who doesn't know about what we're talking about, we have Anderson Silva, a legend in the MMA world from Brazil, fighting a YouTuber boxer, Jake Paul. Everybody should know him by now, aka the problem child. It's funny. It's funny that we have come to this point in the world where a YouTuber is able to challenge a professional fighter. That's like WWE stuff. That's like choreographed fight scenes in a wrestling situation. Like to have a normal person like posting videos being able to challenge a professional fighter, that would never happen. Like in the 80s when Mike Tyson was boxing, like a random dude just
nobody would dare to challenge Mike Tyson.
Yeah, so. That's also true.
That's a different matter. He's a fucking killer. He's still a fucking killer. So
yeah. Oh my God, he's a guru now, man. He's a guru. Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
But the point is, it's a very untraditional fighting route of his career to go as a YouTuber and challenging professional MMA fighters.
He's good. We have to give him that he's actually good. He knocked out Tyron Woodley. Who's like a not a bad stand-up fighter, and now he defeated Anderson Silva, who's like a fucking good stand-up fighter. So even though he's not a boxer, he's an MMA fighter. But and I people talking about that the fight was fixed. I don't believe that. I think that he just well-selected opponents for Jake Paul. I think that is what it is. I don't think that fight was fixed or anything like that. It certainly didn't look like that to me. So.
Yeah, first I just want to mention to you, thank you for not bringing up Mr. Potato Sack, a.k.a. Ben Askren,
right?
Yeah, this Potato Sack, his attitude is so ridiculous to me. So, yeah, he has a record of knocking out good fighters, and he also did. Maybe we want to take a look at the knockout, the knockout where he had a count on Anderson Silva. You want to see that together?
Yeah, let's watch it, man.
All right, let me pull that up. 2 seconds here. Share my screen. Okay, did you see that?
Yeah.
Let's do it again. Let's see here. Boom. This is a right cross getting him.
Yeah.
All right.
Jake Paul is good. Jake Paul is good, but that's the thing that I think if these fights were fixed, then they wouldn't put him against like a 48-year-old, MMA fighter, and someone like, Ben Askren and Tyron Woodley and these guys, then they would bring a proper fucking boxer, I don't know, maybe not a big name like Canelo, but, someone who's still very famous, but a boxer, and they would fix that fight. I don't think that they would fix like a MMA fight, because a fight against an MMA fighter, because it doesn't make sense, especially if the guy is like close to 50. So
yeah, I think that's a valid point, buddy, because if when the first time in modern fighting history we saw that being challenged was with Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor, MMA fighter versus a boxer, a proper boxer, right?
Yeah.
Offensive, smart, intelligent boxer, right? And then we saw the whole concept of that build up was, well, what if? What if we have an MMA guy taking out the best boxer in modern history, right? What if that fueled the whole discussion and the pay-per-views and everything, right? But when we saw, like, was it in ninth? Was it in the was it in the number 9th round? He took out.
I think it was like number 9 or number 10. You know, I'm not really sure, but I mean, if you know, like, someone has like any knowledge about fighting, you know, like whether it's MMA or boxing, like, you know, you couldn't possibly think that McGregor is gonna win that fight, you know, because fucking Floyd Mayweather is like one of the best boxers in the fucking history, right?
Well, so, I gotta disagree with you. Because the whole, and it's not my opinion about it. I will take the objective things first, and then I'll put my subjective opinion about it. But what we saw in that fight, and what I'm trying to illustrate there, is like when you are having somebody from a different sport challenging the best one. Like if you are swimming, you want to challenge Michael Phelps in swimming, right? And you come from water polo, whatever, right? And you try it, and like the dynamics of the sports, it should be impossible to do it, right? Because this one has perfected his tasks, and being challenged by other that knows how to fight but not in that discipline, it should not be possible. But with the Conor McGregor and the Floyd Mayweather fight, with like the whole thing that fueled it was like, but what if, right? What if they're all the rules that we know will be proven wrong? What if there's no gravity here, right? That's what we were actually challenging with Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor, and this is kind of what Jake Paul has done. You know, he's challenging fighters, professional fighters, but in a different discipline. So he kind of hacks it a little bit. And when it comes down to it, is like my subjective opinion is it's a fight, Adam. I've done some amateur fights, you know, and you know, I've won fights that I shouldn't have won. I've lost fights that I should have won. So when you look at this aspect, Mike Tyson against the famous fight that he lost, what was that?
Lennox Lewis?
No, early in his career. It was I don't remember his name. But, you know, nobody thought he could win. You know, nobody thought he could win. And then he took out Mike Tyson in his prime. They had a rematch, and he got knocked out very fast in the rematch, you know, because Mike Tyson was then prepared for it, right? So in my opinion, subjectively, it's a fight and everything can happen. But when you, like you do, what you do very good, Adam, you look at the statistics, you look at the, you know, the fight record, you look at the capacity and the skills of the fighter, and you do a really good assessment of like, this should not be possible. This guy,
of course,
Conor McGregor should never be able to win over Floyd Mayweather. But when this circus and the whole chaos and the media and the pressure and the money, and you want to impress people, and then you just have to do one mistake, man. And that's what fueled the whole situation.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, anything can happen in a fight, but I mean, the odds, according to me, the odds in that fight, like the McGregor-Mayweather fight, you know, was very, very, you know, low odds that McGregor can actually pull that off, you know. Like, of course, I mean, you know, if fucking Mike Tyson fights an average guy, you know, just an average guy from the street, the average guy has a chance to beat Mike Tyson, right? Maybe one in a fucking 10,000, you know, but he has a chance. So I'm not saying that McGregor had like this low chance, you know, to beat Floyd Mayweather, but I mean, I didn't really see that happening. I would have been like very, very fucking surprised if McGregor wins that.
Yeah. No, of course. Everybody was expecting Floyd Mayweather to win, but a lot of us like, well, Jesus, you know, Conor he's a stand-up fighter. You know, he can throw some punches. You know, if he lands a couple of them, we started to speculate, and that's the cool thing about the fight world. But back to the Mike Tyson thing, the fight that he should have won but lost and shocked the whole boxing world was against Buster Douglas.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, and you can look into that later, but that was also like the odds were definitely not on Buster Douglas' side. You know, if you look at the odds at that time, Buster Douglas was like 10-1, like he should never have won that fight, and he did, So
Yeah.
that's the whole energy around that fuels these kind of fights. So when it comes down to fixed fight or not fixed fight with Jake Paul, I'm like, at the end of the day, I don't think it's fixed. And when we saw the clip now that we just did, I don't think it's you can fake that well. You can see the balance, and he's caught off guard, and they've been throwing some rounds. Jake Paul's a strong guy.
Yeah. Also, like when he fought, Tyron Woodley, like Tyron Woodley actually hit him with a very good punch. So, if it would have, if it was like a fixed fight, then these things wouldn't happen, because Tyron Woodley, I mean, if that punch, is a bit stronger, or maybe he's like, 1 inch, right side or left side, and it might be a knockout, or at least a knockdown,
Definitely.
So it's like, I don't think that, you can fix these things this well,
All right. No, I think Jake Paul is a legit boxer. What's the MMA fighter in heavyweight that was fighting John Jones lately? A white guy, a big guy.
In heavyweight, because John Jones never had a fight at heavyweight.
No, not light heavyweight, of course. In Jones.
Are you talking about Gustafsson or?
No, not Gustafsson. It's an American guy.
Okay.
The reason why I'm
let me check like Jones last fights.
It's been a while. Not Dominic Reyes. He looks like kind of a badass, that fighter, but it's an American guy. I don't remember.
Anthony Smith?
Anthony Smith. The reason why I'm mentioning Anthony Smith is because he went out in media, talked about the Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva fight, like pre-fight. Did you see that interview or that clip?
I have not.
He's like, what? Like, if Jake Paul wins this fight, we should just ban him. We should just cancel him. Because he's shitting on everything that we do. And I was like, I was a little bit conflicted with that, because if he beats him, he beats him. You cannot cancel him or kind of isolate him and do whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then he continues saying that that we should now have a proper boxer for him. So my question to you, Adam, what do you think is the next step for Jake Paul to do, like in the fighting world?
Well, I think, what I would like to see personally, is him fighting a real boxer, like even if the boxer is like not the very, very highest level boxer, but I mean, someone who is not an MMA fighter, someone who's not a jiu-jitsu guy, but a fucking boxer, I would love to see that, like how well Jake Paul does against someone like that. And also, I would add that like, who's maybe the same age as Jake Paul, and maybe the same size as Jake Paul as well, because if he fights a boxer, who's like 45-year-old and, like fucking 5 inches shorter and, like 30 pounds less than Jake Paul, then, it's again the same fucking thing, what he did until now. So,
yeah, that's like, who should Jake Paul fight next, huh? Let me see if there's anything that people have been commenting on. Like, who should Jake Paul fight next after upsetting Anderson Silva? Nate Diaz, Tommy Fury, KSI. The list is long and distinguished. So there's a lot of people like Uriah Hall, but he's again MMA fighter.
Again, but I think if he fights someone like Tommy Fury, Tommy Fury would fuck him up bad, man.
Like he's a
boxer, and he's the brother of Tyson Fury, by the way. So I mean,
all right, Tommy Fury. Let's put our money on a fight with Tommy Fury and Jake Paul, huh?
I would love to see that, but I mean, I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't think that Jake Paul, would want to fight Tommy Fury.
Okay, but after a while, now is okay. In my opinion, my subjective opinion is like Jake Paul has now fought legitimate fighters. Like there's no question about it, and there's not like it's been fixed fights because it's been knockouts. It's not like split decision and you win by this or that. He's putting them cold out, knocking them out, and putting them right on their asses, including Anderson Silva. Even though Anderson Silva fought a good fight, he did that to him as well. So there's no question. He's a legit fighter, and fighting retired MMA fighters is getting old. We're fully capable of doing that.
We kind of know like what's gonna happen, right? I mean, if he fights fucking Uriah Hall or Nate Diaz next, like we kind of already know like what's gonna happen.
Yeah, but the point is that when you look into it, it's more like a professional boxer. You build them up. The same thing that they're doing with Sugar Sean. That fight when he was fighting Jan and he win by split decision is like, okay, we're seeing what UFC is trying to do. They're trying to build up a character, and like Conor McGregor, like a money machine, right? So they can let him lose. So with Jake Paul, it's a stupid career move to throw him against Tommy Fury. But again, what fuels the biggest fights, the biggest interest? And keep in mind, this is a YouTuber. He lives from this stuff, right? For him to fight a legitimate fight against Tommy Fury, wow, man. Even if there's no knockout either way, that would be a cool fight and, career move. He would transcend into a real professional fighter, boxing fighter, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like the way how it could work well for Jake Paul is like if Jake Paul, let's say, fights a close fight with Tommy Fury, and even if Tommy Fury wins, but in a close fight, let's say by split decision or something, then that's a good thing for Jake Paul. But I mean, if Tommy Fury, fucking schools him and, knocks him out in the third round, then, it kind of sucks for Jake then because, nobody's ever going to be interested again.
Does it?
I think so. I mean, because his stocks, his stocks are going to go fucking down after that. Like, I mean, everybody would be like that. Yeah, like now you fought a proper fucking boxer, and you got this happen to you. So,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
The popular culture, I think, will act like this. But if we're talking in the fight world, like me and you would still want to see his second or third fight after that loss, right? So I think that also goes for the rest of the fighting world. So I think,
sorry to don't want to interrupt you or anything, but I think that Jake Paul, for him, it's very important to make money, and to make as much money as possible. Like, and if he, breaks his career because of this, because he will lose the next fight, and he won't be able to make as much money, from that point on. So I don't think that he wants that. I don't think he wants to risk that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, man. So what I'm thinking on that situation is we're seeing some change in Jake Paul's approach to the fighting game, right? Because now he's reaching out and saying that a lot of his focus is creating this fighter league association, where equal pay for fighters, like insurance, these kind of things, right? So he's transitioning into to make a new concept to his approach to the fighting world. Not only because he knows as a fighter you can only live as long as you can, being the undisputed, but it's not always about the money right now. It's more about creating better situations for the fighters. If he's using this as an excuse, I don't know, but either way, if it helps the fighters, fantastic. So if he fights, let's say if and when he fights Tommy Fury, okay, if he's liberated, fights him and gets knocked out second round, you know what? People can go back saying, yeah, that's what we told. When he did the first fighting as a proper fighter, he got knocked the fuck out. He's not a real boxer.
That's what people would say. I mean,
that's what people are already saying. That's what people are already saying, right? So he would only give them right in that fight. But the real proper fighters, they would see, no, he took a fucking chance. He fight one of the best fighters in that category and did a proper training camp and everything, you know. He will learn from this fight and get back better. In my opinion, I don't think he will lose in the second round. I think he will go toe-to-toe quite long and have a different tactics and fight him pretty well. And again, telling the fighting world, well, I have a place in the boxing world. You have to take me seriously. Even as a professional fighter, you're not able to fucking run me over. You have to prepare. So that's what I think will happen in a fight over there.
If the fight, let's say, would go to a decision or something, you know, and it's like not a very one-sided decision, you know, then it would be a good thing it could be a good thing for Jake Paul, you know.
But I think Wilder and his big brother
what
Fury.
Could be even better for Jake Paul is, you know, like what could be even better for Jake Paul is if they bring a, you know, like a professional boxer, but who's a bit smaller than him and, you know, like a bit older, somewhere like, you know, between 35 and 40. And, you know, Jake Paul could beat him, whether on points or knockout. And then, you know, then he could say that now I beat a fucking professional boxer and not an MMA fighter, you know. And then, like maybe after that fight, Tommy Fury, you know, because in the meantime, I mean, Jake Paul is only 25, I guess. So he's still getting better, you know. He still didn't hit his prime yet, you know.
Yeah, it's like that's a delicate balance between creating like the pinnacle of fighters' fighting career and matching the best against the best at the time when they're at their best, right? That's an art form. It's very difficult to make it happen, and you see Joshua against Fury. It's never going to happen. They don't want to do it because it ruins too many things. Let me check how old Jake Paul is. Yeah, he's 25. He's born in 97. I thought he was older. He's just a young kid, man. He's doing great for himself.
Yeah,
fantastic.
So he has a lot of time to improve, Like, I mean, I think in combat sports, like you hit your prime usually between like 30 and 35, right? So, I mean, Jake Paul has a fucking 10 more good years in boxing. So.
Yeah, it's a famous known quote that every boxer has one fight's too many. So I don't know how many fights he has in him. How is he able to have the motivation just coming in the fighting game a little bit later? That could be good or bad. But yeah, enough with Jake Paul. Let's move over to our friend Charles Oliveira against Islam. We were not able to talk about that earlier, but what do you think about that fight?
Oh man, it was fucking crazy. I got a bit surprised, by the like the fucking spectacular performance of Islam. Like I didn't think, because the fight was very one-sided, and I didn't think before the fight that it's gonna be like this one-sided. I thought that in the stand-up, like Charles will have the advantage, and I wasn't sure that Islam can stand with him, and he's not gonna get knocked out. But I mean, even in the standing, Islam looked fantastic, according to me. And, it's a strange thing that I don't see anybody in the division right now who could beat Islam, like who would have a high chance beating Islam, He just looks fucking unstoppable, man.
What do you think about the fight? Like, what you said it was one-sided. Why?
Well, I mean, like Islam knocked him down. Charles didn't hit him with any good shots, basically, like he didn't pose any danger to Islam in the fight, like, whether it's the ground game. I mean, he tried one triangle choke on Islam, but it didn't happen. I mean, he was, prepared for it. And also in the stand-up, it was no danger to Islam. But I mean, on the other hand, like once Islam gained he had some top position in the first round as well, but after the knockdown, he got the top position, immediately go for arm triangle choke and just fucking choke him out. So, it looked like, not even that competitive in the second round, according to me.
Mike Tyson, he used to say that, the game is over, the fight is over, even before it started. When he walks into the ring, when he enters the boxing ring, the fight is already won. With saying that is more like how the mental approach to the fighter is towards the fight, right? And before the fight, I saw a photo of Charles Oliveira. I think maybe it's in the weight cut before the weigh-in, where he was lying on the floor with some towels on him, and his whole family, his coach, his team, everybody was standing around him, almost like he was passed away. You know, it looked a little bit dramatic. You know, the photo, like emotional, like very significant moment in the fighting career. And I think that.
Do you think that the pressure got to him or something? Like that's why he lost?
Yeah, I think so, because like when they're closing that octagon door and you know there's only one way out of that octagon is to knock him out, or him knocks you out, or by submission, it's a very lonely place to be. All right, if you haven't ever tried that, had that feeling, you will never understand it, because it's an incredibly lonely feeling. Your coach can be like 10 centimeters from the octagon, but it doesn't help. So with the preparation that he had and the team and everybody's like, we're supporting you, we're with you, blah, blah, blah. That shit don't really matter when it comes down to it. It's a clinical fighting game where you got to have like the skills and the motivation and the drive to do it. And I think this was so important for him, and there were so much things happening. But for Islam, he was like, dude, this guy's in my way. He shows him respect. He's a funny guy, you know. He's a funny guy, Islam, and he's more relaxed than he was. If you see the start of the fight, Charles Oliveira comes jumping out with a jumping kick, right? Misses, doesn't work. Then he starts teeing off. Charles starts try to hit him, try to high kick him to the head, goes in the block. And Islam is just staying calm, collected, moving slow, right? Not stressing it, but always within reach. And when he first did anything, when Islam did the first 2 punches in the fight ever in the first round, he connected. But before that, you see Charles Oliveira jumping, high kicking, doing with zero effect. And that makes me question, when a fighter does this, why do you throw all of these ineffective techniques in this situation that has no effect?
Well, you know, I think, you know, like these kind of things, they worked pretty well for Charles in the past. You know, like he fought, I think, Justin Gaethje in the previous fight, and you know he managed to knock down Justin Gaethje. It was like one of the fucking best, you know, stand-up fighters in the division, and he managed to, you know, knock him down and submit him after that. So you know, it's like Charles' stand-up is pretty good. You know, so I think that
that's not what we're talking about. I think you're being a little bit confused.
Himself, like.
I think you're being a little bit confused of what I'm asking you about, because it's not about doing things that can work or cannot work, but he starts with stuff that he misses. He continues with stuff that doesn't work. So instead of just approaching it and feeling it out and seeing what happens and adapting to it, he just throws things out.
Why do you think it happened?
Yeah, that's what I want to say, you know. I think the pressure got to him. Like, I don't know, let's do this, let's do that. Or what happens? Let's go with this one. It was not a calculated move and trying to land a proper game plan. He was not moving in the same direction as Islam. He was calm, collected, had a game plan.